holding fast with their stewardship in their respective agency. So I want to personally say to all of my colleagues, both those in cabinet and the backbench, thank you very much. I also want to say happy belated Father's Day to all the fathers, both here in the Bahamas and throughout the world. And I want to say happy belated Father's Day also to my father. And I want to thank the residents of Kalani who has given me this opportunity to represent them in this house. And I would say to them that at the end of the debate, I would point out the successes and the way forward for Kalani, at which time I will ask for their support again as we move forward into election, which is due May 2022. Mr. Speaker, as we look around the Bahamas, there are many signs of hope. There are many signs of progress. And this budget is a sign of progress. With many examples of hope for a better future and for the immediate and long term. But there is still much more work to be done, Mr. Speaker, and there is no time to rest. And be assured that I and my colleagues, the government, will not rest until our economy is completely open and all Bahamians given the opportunity to work. We will not rest, Mr. Speaker, until we can see smiles on each and every Bahamian face, smiles of elation and jubilation that their country has returned and has returned even better. We will not grow weary in well-doing. For as the scripture promises, Mr. Speaker, in due season, we shall reap if we faint not. We are getting Bahamians back to work. Our economy is reopening. And Mr. Speaker, if you see what has been happening at our airports, I am certain that the Minister of Tourism was pure joy and jubilation over the entire weekend. And that also holds fast for Elutra and Exuma. And the entire Bahamas, Mr. Speaker, at this point in time is opening up and booming. And we recognize that our airports are becoming somewhat small, and that is why, as I speak, I would demonstrate what we're doing for the various Family Islands, Long Island, etc. Our main industry, tourism, is coming back. We are providing concessions and incentives for Bahamians to thrive in areas such as small business development, tourism, agriculture. And Mr. Speaker, I want to say that as a young professional grouping that started an agricultural farm program here called Eden Farm, and that grouping, Mr. Speaker, has been very successful in hydroponic growing of leafy vegetables. And they recognize that that is the future, and they were very commendable of the Minister of Agriculture who had spearheaded, and insisted that investors coming into Bahamas must purchase a minimum of 40% of our agricultural products once we can provide them. And recognizing the future of the agriculture, both reliable and sustainable, this young grouping, Mr. Speaker, has met with me last week a proposal to expand their business and they would be able to produce sufficient food to supply the Bahamas. And we would not have to worry about hurricanes and other catastrophic events that we are experiencing now. And Mr. Speaker, I want to say that to those young individuals that this government will back them and support them 100%. Mr. Speaker, it's amazing. The farmlands of the first world countries, the US, France, etc., farmers are subsidized. And they are subsidized heavily to the tune of billions and billions of dollars. And thus their products can be cheap. We do what we can, but we obviously cannot subsidize to that degree. But with the support of the Minister of Agriculture, with these young farmers coming forth with hydroponic solutions, new entrepreneurship, new job opportunities, and higher salary scales, this government will remove all taxes to ensure that they are a success. Mr. Speaker, when we speak about food security and diversification, we are on the road. And I am certain that the Minister of Agriculture will ensure that not only would we have just Eden Farm, but we'll have others throughout the other family islands. Yeah. And what is unique, Mr. Speaker, is they can pick the agricultural product and have it delivered on your plate within 1 hour. Right. Without the necessary pesticide, total organic. So, Mr. Speaker, we will provide incentives, payments to thrive in areas as fisheries, the digital economy, development of preschools. You would have heard repeatedly from the Minister of Education of the success that he has with the development of preschools and the challenges that we face with preschools in the family islands. And he would have also pointed out that to ensure there's equality among all Bahamians, both in New Providence, Abaco, Inagua, etc., once an individual is qualified as a preschooler and has the necessary certification, the government would provide them land so that they can develop preschool in that respective island and provide all the necessary tax incentives and grants to ensure that the building meets the various standards. But Mr. Speaker, this is what we do in this Bahamas to move us to another level. So you must ask the question, whose time is it? Is it not the people's time? Mr. Speaker, we'll also provide incentives for the blue, the green and orange sectors of the economy, among other areas of economic potential and growth. And despite Hurricane Dorian and Irma, despite the global pandemic, despite the financial mess left by the PLP, this FNM government has accomplished much. Much more in our 4 years than the previous government had done in their 5 years. and they were in better economic times, and without the unprecedented crisis that we had faced here on a daily basis with COVID and the problems with Dorian. The leader of the opposition, Mr. Speaker, sat in that failed government as number 2. He sat big and bold in a PLP administration that talked plenty and accomplished precious little.
Just like the airport.
If they return to office, Mr. Speaker, it will be much more of the same. Just talk, 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 and nothing more than chatterbox with little solutions. Mr. Speaker, I wish at the outset of this contribution to make a major announcement for the Bahamas.
Government, another one?
Take your time.
You got all kinds of wonderful.
And for the people of the northern Bahamas and Grand Bahama.
Well, you're just in time, man. You're just in time.
I am pleased to announce, Mr. Speaker,
Slow now. Go easy so we can all hear what you say.
that Carnival and Royal Caribbean have agreed to a new combined investment of approximately $350 million in Grand Bahama Shipyard. To understand the scale of this investment, the House may recall that the original investment and other investments to date in the shipyard have totaled approximately $250 million. And the new investment that I speak about will match this and exceed it by an additional $100 million. The proposed infrastructure works will replace the 2 damaged docks with even larger ones. And the new docks will be capable of handling and servicing the largest ships in the world. Grand Bahama, Mr. Speaker, will become the largest cruise ship repair facility in the world. Mr. Speaker, even the stand is excited.
God couldn't take it.
Even the stand is excited.
Yeah, I gave you a stand, but you
But I must now slow down on these investments so that the excitement exhibited by the stand
Don't slow down.
Would be able to start.
will occur no more.
Don't slow down. Don't slow down. Don't.
The Speaker, this will result in a notable increase in employment and economic activity on Grand Bahama and for the local businesses throughout Freeport and Grand Bahama. So let me say, so all in Grand Bahama can hear, Grand Bahama is on the move. I repeat, Mr. Speaker, Grand Bahama is on the move and Grand Bahama is coming back. The government and the owners of the shipyard will work on a new partnership agreement that benefits the people of Grand Bahama. And more details will be presented in the weeks and months ahead. But I wish to note that expansion works on the Grand Bahama Shipyard will begin as early as October of this year. This, Mr. Speaker, is definitely a sign of progress, a sign of hope, and a sign of confidence. So So Grand Bahamas was demonstrated at the airport just over the weekend, like the rest of the Bahamas, is on the move. We are coming back. This is one of the biggest investments in Grand Bahama in its history. I will have much more to say later, Mr. Speaker, in my presentation about investments that are on the horizon. Mr. Speaker, I would also like to provide a brief update on the COVID-19 National Vaccine Initiative and changes with the emergency orders. As we continue to reopen our economy and communities, we must bear in mind that we are still in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. It is critical that we protect each island in our archipelago. Measures have been put in place across our family of islands to control and to slow the spread of the COVID-19 virus. And these measures include monitoring new cases, hospitalizations, and other health outcomes. There were 23 emergency medical flights from the Family Island to New Providence between the 12th of May and the 5th of June. And that was why, Mr. Speaker, we had pointed out repeatedly it was essential that we protect our family of islands. Yep. Between the 22nd of May and the 9th of June, 11 COVID-19 Family Island patients were admitted to the Princess Margaret Hospital. And sadly, Mr. Speaker, 2 of those Family Islands patients passed away during that period. Our unique geography means that we must aggressively approach outbreaks in each island to mitigate the spread of this COVID-19. And this means implementing lockdowns, curfews, and other restrictions when necessary. No one, including myself, likes lockdowns, curfews, and restrictions. But they have been proven to save lives. We have been successful in the Bahamas as a collective with this approach. Most recently on Cat Island, North and Central Andros and the Berry Islands, an aggressive approach to outbreaks in those communities slowed the spread of COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, a part of slowing the spread of COVID-19 is vaccinating our population. We are making good progress with our national COVID-19 vaccination program. But more people need to be vaccinated if we are to return to an even greater sense of normalcy sooner. I am once again, Mr. Speaker, asking all those who are eligible to get vaccinated. As of the 19th of June, 2021, a total of 79,246 doses of the vaccine have been administered throughout the Bahamas. 54,199 people have received at least one dose of the vaccine, and 25,047 people have received both doses of the vaccine and are fully vaccinated. The Ministry of Tourism, Mr. Speaker, had set up a very efficient vaccine travel card, Visa health card, and from that we could extract lots of information As for those Bahamians who've been vaccinated in the United States, 2,682 Bahamian citizens and residents have been vaccinated in the United States thus far. And those individuals would have received Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, and Pfizer. So our 79 odd thousand who have been vaccinated, Mr. Speaker, we can at this point add an additional 2,682 that would have been vaccinated in the United States. And we continue to compile our data, and I'm certain that that number will increase. Phase 2 of the vaccination rollout in the Family Islands, which includes the administration of first and second doses, started this past weekend in Abaco and will continue this week throughout the Bahamas. That is, throughout the islands. We are grateful to the U.S. Embassy and the Rhode Island National Guard for generously donating aircraft and pilots to transport the vaccines, health teams, and volunteers to and from our many islands. Mr. Speaker, the Delta variant of this virus emerged in India in recent months. We all saw the stories on the international news and the horror it caused and continues to cause. India generously granted us our first vaccine doses, and we remain grateful for this gift. And we send them our prayers in their times of need. A story in the United Kingdom Guardian on Monday, Mr. Speaker, June 14th, noted that the Delta variant has been found in 74 countries and that it is poised to be the dominant strain in the world. And this is bad news, Mr. Speaker. Researchers suggest the Delta variant is about 60% more transmissible than the Alpha variant, which emerged in the UK. The Alpha variant, Mr. Speaker, was already more infectious than earlier types of the virus. Researchers also think the Delta variant makes infected individuals even more sick. So, Mr. Speaker, we have a new variant. It's already in 74 countries, the Delta variant. It's not a matter of when, it's not a matter of if it would arrive, but it will arrive here in the Bahamas. But the AstraZeneca vaccine is effective against the Delta variant. So AstraZeneca would provide adequate protection against this variant, and once vaccinated, if the variant arrives, we would have been poised to combat such arrival. Mr. Speaker, I want to deviate, go back into my medical days. As a doctor, Mr. Speaker, and I speak to my patients and I speak to the Bahamian populace. As a doctor, you trusted my decisions. You trusted the treatment I gave you. The 10,000 odd individuals, females, more than 10,000, whom I would have operated on, trusted me. They trusted me with their lives, and the over 5,000 babies that I would have delivered, they trusted me with their babies. So I say to you, the 10,000 odd women and the 5,000 odd that were delivered and are of adult age, You trusted my decision then as a physician. And I speak to you again today. Trust my decision again and let's become vaccinated. I want to encourage all eligible Bahamians and residents to get vaccinated as soon as possible. Protect yourself. The vaccine is free and registration is easy. If an individual has had a first dose, they should make sure they receive the second dose for the maximum protection. If you have not yet received the first dose, you should make an appointment today at vax.gov.bs. I repeat, vax.gov.bs, or visit one of our walk-up vaccination centers. Visit opm.gov.bs/vaccine for more information on the COVID-19 vaccine and the vaccination schedules. Mr. Speaker, in a post-pandemic world, travelers, customers, and employees may have to use vaccination passes to prove vaccination status. And this could make it easier to enter certain businesses, countries, or to be exempt from strict testing and quarantine requirements. Previously, the Bahamas used a yellow immunization card issued by the Ministry of Health to confirm your vaccination status. However, in the age of technology, a digital vaccination pass is the most convenient solution for many citizens. A digital record minimizes fraud, eliminates having to replace lost and damaged yellow immunization cards, and moves away from the paper usage. Mr. Speaker, we are pleased to announce, and I must congratulate the Minister of Health who has been pushing this aggressively. We are pleased to announce that we have such cutting-edge technology. In this regard, our digital pass and vaccination checker may be the envy of the region. We are always first. The new Ministry of Health vaccination certificate, which is now called Vaccination Pass, will allow users to show their vaccination status on their smartphones. Mr. Speaker, if I am given a few minutes to open my phone, so I have to get the code in, then I would be able to show you that simple pass. Scan the barcode, and in a matter of seconds, you can get a response saying valid or invalid. Mr. Speaker, the system will generate a Vax Pass after completion of 2 doses, and users can download the same after log on to the system. Users can save the digital Vax Pass to their mobile device as is demonstrated, and it can be presented to the business owners or government agencies for verification. It will be saved on their phone wallets for storage also. The vaccination checker module allows business and government users to check the vaccination details of fully vaccinated individuals by scanning the QR code on the digital Vax Pass and to verify the details. And while the QR code scanner can be used on mobile devices with cameras, any business or government user can verify the validity of a VaxPass by simply entering the code manually to view the status details. If the VaxPass is invalid, the system will show a message, "Invalid VaxPass," to the business or government agency. Mr. Speaker, all anyone has to do is to go to vax.gov.bs, click on Vaccination Checker, scan the QR code, and enter the BCV code and instantaneously verify the validity of the digital vaccination certificate issued after their second dose. No special equipment is needed, and no fee is charged to the user. In the very near future, Mr. Speaker, you will also have the opportunity to secure or purchase a wallet-sized vaccine pass card. And as you can see, the Deputy Prime Minister already has a wallet size, just like a credit card. Just like a credit card, keep in your wallet. Bring out your credit card, scan, and you're straight. Let me note, Mr. Speaker, that the yellow immunization card may still be used to verify vaccination. I should also like to mention that while they will not enjoy the benefits of the VaxPass, Bahamians who choose to get vaccinated abroad will be able to register online so that we have a better grasp of how many Bahamians are in fact vaccinated. And you would note that I've mentioned thus far that there are more than 2,000 Bahamians that we can validate would have been completely vaccinated by the American system. And we are certain that there are more, as there are Bahamians that live in other parts of the world, the UK and other countries, and the technology allow us to grasp such information so as we'd have a better handle of the amount of individuals who are vaccinated within our boundaries. Mr. Speaker, as I've said before, the more of us that are vaccinated, the more we can reopen. The level of progress we have achieved on the management of the virus during this current period allows the government to make the following changes to the emergency orders. The following daily curfew changes will go into effect tonight, Monday, the 21st of June, tonight. On New Providence. Brand, I see you jumping. The young people tell me they want a vaccination party. If they are vaccinated, carry on. On New Providence, the daily curfew will move from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. And Mr. Speaker, I should note that the health professionals will monitor progress over the next few days. And New Providence will then be able to move from 11 p.m. to 12 midnight, depending on the outcome. On Grand Bahama, the curfew will move from 11 p.m. to 12 midnight. That's 12 midnight to 5 a.m. And Michael Pintard, Minister of Agriculture, I know you would like to go out partying, and if Grand Bahama stays as is,
This is midnight party.
The Grand Bahamas stays as is. I know that once you're out partying by 1 o'clock, you'd be home, so we would move Grand Bahama 1 o'clock. Abaco, Mr. Speaker, will likewise be moved to 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. Cat Island will be moved to 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. North and Central Andros will move to 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. There is no longer a curfew for the Berry Islands, South Andros, which includes Mangrove Key. So I say to the Berries, South Andros, and Mangrove Key, enjoy yourselves. But still, adhere to the protocols. The PCR test requirement for travel to and from Cat Island and Andros will be removed immediately. PCR testing to travel from Grand Bahama will be removed effective immediately.
Mark put on that one.
Abacos was already removed. Mr. Speaker, currently, there's a $10 charge to all Bahamians who are vaccinated traveling back home. There's a $10 charge for a health visa card. Those who are returning home, travel visa. $10 charge for a travel visa. $10 charge, Mr. Speaker, for a health visa to the Bahamas. That is $10 charge for residents and Bahamians who are fully vaccinated. Those returning home, that is those individuals who are vaccinated. This fee, Mr. Speaker, will be removed effective the 1st of July of this year. So as of the 1st of July, there will no longer be a fee. On New Providence, funeral and memorial services. It's useless me stopping you. You don't understand sciences. On New Providence, funeral and memorial services will now be permitted in a church or other indoor facility in accordance with the health protocols of the Bahamas Christian Council guidelines approved by the Ministry of Health. There is no requirement to be fully vaccinated. Mask and physical distancing are still required. Please note, repasts are still not permitted on New Providence, Paradise Island, Grand Bahama, mainland Abaco, Eleuthera, Harbor Island, and Great and Little Exuma. The number of people allowed to gather in groups on beaches and parks will be increased from 5 to 15 on New Providence and Paradise Island, Grand Bahama, mainland Abaco, Eleuthera, Harbor Island, Great and Little Exuma. Mr. Speaker, I mentioned last week that the country will soon be able to celebrate a vaccination day. I envision that this will take place once health officials determine that a sufficient number of the eligible population has been vaccinated. In the interim, I am pleased to announce that persons who are fully vaccinated may engage in the following. Now, I want you to listen to me carefully. Listen to me carefully so you can do your interpretation. Individuals who are fully vaccinated can engage in the following: private gatherings and other social events in your homes and elsewhere. May now be held provided all the attendees are fully vaccinated. You can interpret that. The young people will interpret it, party on. But you can interpret that. Indoor dining in restaurants was already approved weeks ago for fully vaccinated individuals. Wedding receptions will now be permitted on New Providence and Grand Bahama, provided that all attendees are fully vaccinated with both doses of COVID-19. That is indoor, having a good time. The host of wedding receptions, private gatherings, and other social events will be responsible for verifying that guests are fully vaccinated. And I showed you on the phone how can be done very easily. Hosts and guests will be subject to fines for non-compliance. COVID-19 ambassadors will continue to carry out patrols to reinforce adherence to emergency orders. All performance groups and artists, including bands, jungle groups, dance troupes, and acting groups, may perform at all activities permitted under the emergency powers orders, provided all performers are fully vaccinated. I want to give the example again, Mr. Speaker. A grouping had written requesting a wedding reception of about 98 individuals, all of whom were vaccinated. They were vaccinated. They're safe. Now, our opinion was, as they wrote, we only responded, carry on. They also asked, could they have a Junkanoo band group participate to provide music for them? Our response was, if they're vaccinated, you can invite the Saxons.
Foxel Congos. One family. I understand the Saxon. Why you don't extend that to him?
That's extended. That's extended. That's extended. So I say to the Junkanoers, this is a great opportunity as the hotels are opening up, weddings and other functions. This is an opportunity for them to re-engage themselves and be a part of the entertainment. Vaccinated, carry on. Our aim, Mr. Speaker, is to fully reopen in several months. Allow me to repeat. Our aim here in the Bahamas is to fully reopen our country in several months. If various conditions are met, and advised by health officials. That is SEVERAL. As always, Mr. Speaker, we will continue to follow the science.
No, he did not.
We will continue to follow the science and consult with our health team on how best to move forward. Mr. Speaker, there are long-term structural issues we must address to promote more dynamic growth, more opportunity, and greater ownership of the economy by Bahamians. One regional economist recently noted our long-term challenges made more difficult by recent unprecedented events. She also commended our 2021-22 national budget, which some dedicated critics sought to minimize or ignore. Caribbean economist Dukaran stated in her recent analysis, I quote, "The fact that the government of the Bahamas had maintained a reasonable level of socio-economic stability so far is testament to their capabilities, political will, and ability to access assistance from external parties, including the multilateral lending institutions, most recently, the World Bank. She went on, by no means could this be an easy task, and the government is certainly dealing with a lot more than many, at least in a regional context. End quote.
Sometimes it takes folk from the outside.
She added, Mr. Speaker, I believe that the commitment to fiscal responsibility articulated in this budget and demonstrated by this administration is commendable and unique. She further said, I am not aware of any independent country in the Caribbean which has legislated and implemented any such fiscal responsibility framework, fiscal rules without the commitment to do so under an IMF-supported program.
This morning, we need nobody to tell us.
Others are forced
us to do right.
This is true democracy. She also stated, Mr. Speaker, I quote, an orderly debt reprofiling exercise is preferable versus a disorderly debt restructure balance of payment crisis. It is worth reiterating here that any such outcome would not necessarily reflect on the authorities as much as it reflects the Bahamas' acute vulnerability and indeed that of every country in the Bahamas. End quote. In the Caribbean, my apology, in the Caribbean. It is unfortunate, Mr. Speaker, yes, it is unfortunate that some local commentators are not as forthcoming in their assessment of the hard and good work we are doing here in the Bahamas under such very difficult circumstances. I wish to remind the House, Mr. Speaker, I wish to remind the House and the Bahamian people that my government provided more than $274 million thus far in direct COVID-19 support to take care of Bahamians during the ongoing pandemic. Through March 2021, we spent $25.9 million on COVID-19 public health measures. We spent $118 million in unemployment assistance for the unemployed and self-employed due to the pandemic. We spent $32.8 million via the Food Assistance Program in partnership with NGOs.
That's a caring Prime Minister.
Yes.
That's a caring.
There was $44.4 million in tax credits that allowed companies to fund payroll for more than 14,000 individuals. There was $53.3 million in business and continuity loans and grants to small businesses. We are living through the worst crisis in our modern history. Much worse than the 2008 Great Depression. Much worse than any financial crisis experienced by any government in an independent Bahamas. And during this crisis, we have not laid off one civil servant.
Wow.
Or reduced salaries. Mr. Speaker, We are a loving, caring, compassionate government.
Yes.
We look at the effects, what will happen if individuals are laid off. Some look at numbers. If you lay off, your salary, your payouts decrease, and you're more apt to balance. That is true. But a caring government would never do that. No. We would look at the ramifications. What are the ramifications? If we laid off the over 500 members of Bahamas Air, if we laid off the over 150 members of Nassau Flight Services, if we laid off members of the public service, what would have happened? They would have lost their rent payments and lose their homes. Mortgages would have lost. Homes would have been lost. The lights would have gone off. The children could not go online. The children could not go online to follow through with their school. The school fees, Mr. Speaker, would not have been paid, and many would have had to leave school and enter the government system. In addition to that, as a caring, loving, responsible government, we also gave the private schools an additional $5 million. Mr. Speaker, those individuals' water would have been disconnected at a time in a pandemic. Their car payment would have not been met, and they would have lost their car. In addition to that, they would have not been able to pay or buy fuel for their cars to move back and forth. So, Mr. Speaker, I ask the Bahamian populace, which is worse? Yes, laying off balances numbers, but caring government cares about families and lives.
Our balance sheet is the heart.
Many tens of thousands, Mr. Speaker, have been fed for over a year. We have spent an unprecedented amount of money on unemployment benefits and in support of businesses. Now, Mr. Speaker, a story in the business section of the Nassau Guardian at the end of last week noted, I quote, a World Bank report has lauded the Bahamas' level of unemployment benefits during the COVID-19 pandemic, explaining that this country is one of the few in the region to offer unemployment payments to citizens not eligible for the National Insurance Board's contributory unemployment benefit. It also went on. According to the report titled Employment in Crisis, only about 1/3 of the countries in Latin America and the Caribbean offer a national unemployment income support plan. Job displacement income support programs specifically designed to sustain the income and consumption of laid-off workers and their families in the form of unemployment insurance is therefore relatively rare in the region, the report states, end quote. The Guardian story in the business section also stated, quote, the report explained that some countries like the Bahamas offered unemployment coverage that was effective during the pandemic. And at the start of the pandemic, the government created what is called an unemployment assistance program which was separate from the National Insurance Board's unemployment benefit. And since the start of COVID-19 crisis here in the Bahamas, the government has spent $16 million on self-employed, government-funded unemployment assistance programs, $134.6 million on the government-funded unemployment extension program, and $97.6 million on the National Insurance Unemployment Benefit. The report continues how workers in the informal sectors are often in danger of missing out on unemployment coverage in many countries in the region. Workers from formal but more precarious contracts may be statutorily excluded from coverage by unemployment income support programs, the report states. It further went on, and even among formally employed workers with standard employment contracts, effective coverage is disappointingly low. The Guardian business section story also notes this from the report. Beyond the exceptional cases of Barbados, whose system delivers benefits to 88% of unemployed workers, only in the Bahamas, Chile, and Uruguay do national unemployment insurance arrangements appear to provide widespread, effective coverage. Outside these three countries, even in the remaining few Latin American and Caribbean countries that offer unemployment insurance, coverage remains too low. Mr. Speaker, I grew up in Baintown in moderate circumstances. No, my mother taught us to work hard. You don't worry, when I finish. Just like many Bahamians have always had to do to provide for their families. I learned some of the values I have carried with me all my life, including compassion and caring for others.
That's a caring leader. Oh, yeah.
I learned love
Loving Prime Minister.
and respect. We made do with what we had. But there was always enough to share with somebody else in greater need. And my mother would always say to me, boy, give some or take this to Miss Jane or Miss Brown or Miss Browning. Make sure they have something also. And we had to put money as children growing up in the collection every Sunday without fail at church. I remember reading some years ago that people who are poor often give a higher proportion of their income to charity than the wealthy. And when I was growing up, Mr. Speaker, neighbors took care of each other.
Yep.
In fact, you could not even walk the street without saying good morning or good day to individuals. If you did not,
Oh my goodness.
you were punished when you got home. Mr. Speaker, when this pandemic hit, I knew in my heart, in my soul, and in my conscience that we had to care. We had to care for the Bahamian people no matter what. People needed food. People needed some income in their pockets. And that's why we could not fathom laying off individuals in such circumstances. We had to expand the healthcare facilities to accommodate those who got sick. And we had to protect our people. I carried to the office of the Prime Minister the values I learned in my youth from my mother, my father, my older sisters, and from the priests and sisters of Our Lady's School. And yes, Boxer was older than I, and I learned quite a bit from Boxer too.
What you say, Eggleston? Don't go there.
Mr. Speaker, I learned then, and I still carry in my heart the commands from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 25, verse 35 to 40. Well, I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink?
Yes, Eggleston.
When did we see you a stranger
Yes.
and invite you in, or needing clothes
Clothes.
and clothed you?
Yes, Padre.
When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you? And the king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did
To the least.
the least of these brothers and sisters of mine,
You've done it.
you did for me. Mr. Speaker, what we did for our people during this pandemic was not a matter of charity. It was a matter of love, of labor. It was a matter of fairness.
Yes.
It was a matter of justice. It was a matter, Mr. Speaker, of doing the right thing.
Yes. Chaplain.
And it was a matter of faith. Given the circumstances, I would make the same decision again. I would make the same decision again, Mr. Speaker, to take care of all Bahamians, especially the most vulnerable people and the poor in our country.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, we invested heavily in small business development. We spared little in upgrading our healthcare infrastructure in dealing with COVID-19. We put even more money into funding for students at University of Bahamas and BTVI so they can take advantage of the recovering economy. And I only want to reiterate at this time, we've made education free and ensure that that is University of Bahamas, BTVI, etc. free, and ensuring that every Bahamian coming from the Family Island is given $500 per month to assist with their. Mr. Speaker, we are also continuing to invest in our inner city communities. Increasing water connectivity in over-the-hill communities is one of the commitments of this administration. And to achieve this goal, the installation of water mains and lateral lines, as well as repairs to damaged infrastructure, are ongoing. Such works are completed on Kwaku Street. And on Wednesday, June 16, works began on Bow Avenue and are scheduled to be completed in the upcoming weeks. Forthcoming areas also include Wilderness Close and Spray Tame Lane. The Over the Hill Community Development Partnership Initiative, Mr. Speaker, is also currently working alongside the Water and Sewage Corporation to facilitate residents getting their water turned on. Mr. Speaker, as of May 2021, more than 4.2 million concessions are being granted to over-the-hill businesses. These have included waiving business license fees and stamp and real property taxes. And this facilitates lower costs for the purchase of commercial vehicles and building materials. I would like to remind residents of the over-the-hill community that under the Economic Empowerment Zone Act of 2018, you are eligible to access tax concessions for building and repairing of homes and other buildings. Speaker, I want to remind them that they are in a tax-free zone where they can get their building supplies duty-free. They can purchase cars for their respective businesses duty-free. No business license fees or real property tax fees. And most importantly, for those who want to commence business, the government has now made it available that their first inventory is tax-free. At present, Mr. Speaker, this includes Over the Hill. However, it's the intention of the government to expand such facilities and concessions to St. Barnabas, Angliston, Gambia, sectors of Camp Road, and sectors of Fox Hill. So these areas would be able to, no business license, no real property tax, no duty on cars for your businesses once meet all the necessary requirements. And you say, whose time is it, Angliston?
It's the people's time.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Say that Cat Island jump.
Can I think she talking with
Mr. Speaker, the Over the Hill initiative continues to partner with BTVI to enroll inner city residents in certification courses and job readiness programs. And such initiatives promote employment and contribute to the social empowerment of the Over the Hill residents. The graduation of the current cohort of Over the Hill residents is scheduled for June 25th. Additional BTVI and Small Business Development Center courses are being planned for cohorts specifically from the Over the Hill community. Mr. Speaker, there are also signs of hope and progress in direct investments. Yes. International investors are confident about the country's prospects. I wish to now update the House on the redevelopment of the Sandals Royal Bahamian Resort on Cable Beach. The redevelopment will cost some $37 to $40 million. Preliminary works has already begun. The projected timeline for completion is early November of this year. When Sandals on New Providence reopen in a few months, they are expected to engage 1,000 workers. So, Mr. Speaker, the Bahamas is on its way. As another example, the well-known Rock House Hotel and Restaurant on Harbor Island, which closed at the start of the pandemic, is set to reopen under new ownership. The hotel is a 12-room boutique accommodation, and it will reopen coming November 15th, employing 30 Bahamians. Mr. Speaker, there is yet another development set for Cable Beach, another sign of confidence in the Bahamas. Aqualina has recently been approved to commence a $75 million condominium project east of the One Cable Beach adjacent to Bahamas Resort. And this development This development will be operated by Aristo Development, the management company for several successful modern high-rise condominium projects, inclusive of One Cable Beach Development and 36 Limited, just to name a few. Aqualina will comprise 27 large 3- and 4-bedroom residences each, with an ocean view. And Aqualina has completed all pre-construction and design work and is presently under construction with a full complement of Bahamian contractors. At peak construction, approximately 300 Bahamians will be employed. And Aqualina is scheduled to be for completion in 2023. Mr. Speaker, our administration signed an agreement for sale and the heads of agreement for the Grand Lucaya and Grand Bahama for a $200 million hotel and cruise port project with Royal Caribbean Cruise Line and the ITM Group. Both projects have been delayed because of Hurricane Dorian and COVID-19. However, both developers have confirmed they are moving forward, and we expect the final negotiations for the harbor project and the hotel to be completed shortly. The Bahamas is on its way. The Bahamas is coming back. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, there are a number of other substantial and economically diversifying projects that we hope to share with the public as soon as possible. They promise to have a positive impact on employment and on government revenue. Mr. Speaker, I was recently talking with a businesswoman in her 80s who took advantage of a grant from the Small Business Development Center. And this woman, a mother of 2, is a resident of Carmichael. She used her grant to fulfill a lifelong dream to own her own business. And she told me about the traffic she is now encountering on Gladstone Road. When I was about to ask her about the traffic, she said, "PM, the traffic is a good sign. This means that things are coming back." Things are returning to normal. And she also said, "I can see it in my cash register." She told me that her business was picking up and that she was looking to hire a few employees before the end of the year. This female entrepreneur, Mr. Speaker, is one of many Bahamians who have had their dreams come true because of the approximately $64 million in the multiple types of grants and loans we have provided for small business. And there is much, much more to come. I wish to remind the House that in order to help small businesses owners, we introduced the provisional license. Such a provisional license is issued for 90 days to help small businesses get up and running quickly. While startups wait for approvals to be processed by other government agencies, a provisional license enables eligible businesses to move forward with critical tasks such as opening a business bank account. We also reduced the processing time for a business license. Let me be clear, there is still much more work to be done to improve the ease of doing business and to get more Bahamians back to work. Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition's budget contribution was full of empty rhetoric and woefully short on substance. If one accepts his ridiculous assessment, he gives little to no blame or responsibility to COVID-19 for most that has happened the past 15 months. In his politically biased and bizarre view, most things the virus caused is the fault of our administration. I guess he will also start to blame me, Mr. Speaker. It's only a matter of time before he starts to blame me for climate change.
That's right.
For the hurricane season and every other thing under the sun. It's only a matter of time. I'm surprised he's not blaming me for the virus. The COVID-19 pandemic is the worst global public health crisis in 100 years. All countries have been affected. The virus has killed millions. It has made hundreds of millions sick. The virus has collapsed the healthcare system of some of the richest and most powerful countries on earth. The global powers, with the best scientists, the best hospitals, and the biggest pharmaceutical industries, have struggled with this virus. The International Air Transport Association, IATA, is the trade association for the world's airlines, representing 290 airlines, or 82% of total air traffic. IATA has announced full-year global passenger traffic results in 2020. They show that demand fell by 65.9% compared to the full year of 2019. Wow. IATA said this was by far the sharpest decline, traffic decline in aviation history. IATA's Director General and CEO added, and I quote, "Last year was a catastrophe. There is no other way to describe it. What recovery there was over the Northern Hemisphere summer season stalled in autumn, and the situation turned dramatically worse over the year-end holiday season as more severe travel restrictions were imposed in the face of new outbreaks and new strains of COVID-19. End quote. Our main industry, Mr. Speaker, is tourism. The virus all but wiped out global travel for the majority of 2020 and into the early months of 2021. At times during 2020, our tourism sector was in complete shutdown due to the global pandemic. The Bahamas consequently faced the worst public health crisis and the worst economic crisis in its modern history at the same time. The misguided presentation by the leader of the opposition is mostly divorced from reality. To blame this administration for the hardships caused by the pandemic is immature political nonsense. My government realized from the beginning that this was a historic crisis. We acted quickly to save lives. We did not make decisions to be popular. This is the problem with the leader of the opposition. In my view, his utterances are often desperate attempts to appease the popular mood. Good leaders do not do this during a public health crisis. Mr. Speaker, it has also been disappointing listening to the leader of the opposition talk down the Bahamas throughout the crisis. His desire has been to attack us. But what he has actually done, in effect, is talk down his country. In his budget contribution, he was at it again. He criticized our country's vaccination efforts. He even named places in the region he said were ahead of us. Quite a few of the places I heard him mention are colonial dependencies. Such colonial dependencies have their wealthy home countries to supply them. We, Mr. Speaker, we, in the independent developing world, have to source our vaccines alone. While he had little good to say about his country's vaccination rollout, the leader of the opposition sure seemed gleeful when it was time for him to get his shot. The leader of the opposition and his deputy are fully vaccinated.
They won't say it, but you can say it.
Straight, man, they're straight.
They were dead happy
They get their passport.
in the pictures they posted on social media when they got their jobs. All I could see was teeth.
They wouldn't tell nobody get vaccinated.
Yet for political gain, the leader of the opposition came here to be negative about our vaccination process. Rather than belittling the efforts of Bahamians, like the leader of the opposition, I would like to thank Dr. Dal Regis, Mr. Ed Fields, and other members of the National Vaccination Committee and staff of the Ministry of Health for all the hard work they have done securing and administering vaccines. I am proud, Mr. Speaker, of the work they have done. They are helping to save lives. I believe in Bahamian medical professionals. I believe in their expertise and the care they render. Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition has represented Cat Island for 4 terms now, with his party in office 10 years of that period. He showed what kind of leader he is when he tried to talk about his constituency of Cat Island. He was all mixed up. The members for Yamaha, Elizabeth, and Long Island had to help set the record straight. In fact, the member for Long Island dealt with him quite good and efficiently. In the last administration, he was the Minister of Public Works.
That's right.
And deputy to the Prime Minister. He was a powerful man. Short in stature, but powerful. In defense of himself, in his budget communication, the leader of the opposition held up placards depicting plans and drawings he had for Cat Island. That's him.
That's what they're gonna shut up. Oh boy.
And all he could show were drawings and plans. And he wasn't even embarrassed. But that's the opposition way.
Come here trying to trick us.
That is his way. They accomplish little to nothing for the people when they are in office. And when they get voted out, all they say with pride is that they left this plan
In place.
and that drawing in place.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda. Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
This is what they did previously.
I see why you ain't take that
This is what they did previously with the straw market downtown, which the FNM ended up building. We are not like them, Mr. Speaker. And we are delivering for Cat Island. It is under the FNM that the people of Cat Island will see extensive and expanded access to potable water, which more than he ever delivered.
Caring government.
We are delivering historic infrastructure all across the family islands. There are new waterworks, new roads and bridges, new passport offices in local communities. New airports are on the way. We seek to improve the lives. We seek to improve the lives across the entire archipelago. Look at his record while in office. It is very poor, with a capital P. Now he's promising the Bahamian people all kinds of things.
You know that's just the promise.
Mr. Speaker, Exuma has been represented by the PLP in the House for many years, but it is under the FNM that Exuma is going to boast one of the best modern international airport in the region. The PLP talked about a new airport for Exuma.
Don't play like you're reading next door.
Talk is cheap. Very, very cheap. Money buys land. Their talk is very cheap. For our part, Mr. Speaker, we are investing $65 million in a new airport for Exuma. New airport for Exuma.
And we got
Exuma come, bear to look up.
This is Exuma, Mr. Speaker.
Celebrate for your people, Exuma.
celebrate for your people, man.
Bang that desk, man.
You can't take the politics that serious. Something good happens for your people that you would even look.
That's not bad.
This one is long. Come on, man. You know, distraction of this. There are no carrots.
Exuma.
It's real things. No carrots in there.
You don't like that?
No dangle. That's the whole farm.
There you are.
If this was in Santa Fe, you would have been clapping it. Why Exuma ain't clapping? Why Exuma ain't
Don't read, man.
You don't care about those people.
We are repairing and reconstructing over 3 miles of roads in Black Point, Exuma. At the cost of $1.5 million. We will rehabilitate 10 miles of road from the international airport to the town center, including isolated repairs in other areas in Great Exuma. This is approximately an $8 million project. New terminal building is currently out to tender for Long Island International Airport at Deadman's Key, Long Island. And tenders are due back in mid-June. It is anticipated that a contract will be awarded in early August for construction to commence in September of this year. The civil works is part of the overall project for a new airport, which will involve extending the runway to 6,500 foot and raising it substantially to prevent flooding. The civil works will cost an estimated $10 million. The Speaker, Long Islanders must see their new airport.
That's the arrow going.
Another view of the Long Island's airport.
Another view of the air side, the airline side.
On the air side of Long Island's new airport.
Long Island back home.
Island Green.
The development of new Family Island airports is part of our vision to ensure that our islands help to fuel more dynamic growth for our entire country. We cannot, Mr. Speaker, under no circumstances, leave out Berry Island. Berry Island Airport.
That almost finished.
This is almost completed, folks. We deliver.
And this is the inside of the Berry Island Airport. Mr. Speaker, we intend to embark on an ambitious era of public-private partnership for development of modern infrastructure. This will mean billions of dollars in private sector investment. This may lead to much more dynamic rates of growth and greater employment opportunity and ownership for Bahamians. Mr. Speaker, we are rehabilitating and repairing the runway at the Bimini International Airport at South Bimini. The work includes the total reconstruction of the 7,500-foot runway with the addition of a new turn pad. The cost of the project is approximately $5.6 million with a duration of 9 months. This budget includes $1.9 million. Grand Bahama, I want you to listen again. This budget includes $1.9 million for the construction of a new school for East End Grand Bahama. It also includes $4 million for a microgrid for East Grand Bahama that is set to commence this fiscal year. We are reconstructing approximately 8 miles of road in East, Central, and West Grand Bahama. And the works will cost approximately $6.1 million. The Western Atlantic Medical School has already begun construction of the new medical school facility on Grand Bahama. The project may represent approximately $100 million being injected into the economy of Grand Bahama. Initial construction for the first phase of the project has already begun and is expected to be completed by December of this year. Phase 1 represents the first $33 million being invested and construction on the first 10 acres of a new building. Phase 2 is slated to begin in January 2022 and be completed December of next year. We are extending for 5 more years concessions under the City of Nassau Revitalization Act to promote the ongoing redevelopment of businesses and properties downtown and in the City of Nassau. Mr. Speaker, we are now witnessing the biggest redevelopment of downtown Nassau in the history of the Bahamas, which includes the Nassau Cruise Port. To help boost jobs and businesses in our Family Islands, we are extending for 5 years the Family Island Development Act and Encouragement Act. This will mean ongoing concessions and incentives for Bahamians in exemptions from customs duty, business license, tax, and VAT for certain Family Islands. I am instructing the Ministry of Finance and other agencies to publish online the numerous concessions available to Bahamian business people and entrepreneurs in every economic sector. Mr. Speaker, it is vital as a government to listen and learn from various criticisms and differing views. Yet, over the past 4 years, and over the past year and a half especially, there are certain critics who talk plenty fool, who did not have to feed people, who did not have to ensure benefits to keep families together and households going, who did not have to make the tough decisions about COVID, and who did not have to get the country ready for recovery. My government, Mr. Speaker, had to do more than talk. We bear the responsibility of governance. We had to act, and act we did. We have governed on behalf of our people. We have saved lives and people's livelihoods, and we do not apologize. I do not apologize for borrowing to take care of our people. And Mr. Speaker, I say, it is still the people's time. Mr. Speaker, I note at this time that the government will extend the National Food Distribution Program for a further quarter. This makes food assistance available to those in the greatest need until the end of September 2021. The government will continue to partner with Feeding and other NGOs on this initiative with a further contribution of $10 million. And the National Food Distribution Task Force will be able to assist 18,000 homes to meet the criteria. Mr. Speaker, that is to meet that criteria. Mr. Speaker, to significantly boost growth and to address structural issues in our economy, we must drastically improve the process for Bahamian and international investors to invest in the Bahamas. Allow me to briefly address how we intend to become a more competitive destination for domestic and foreign direct investment, also known as FDI. Every country in the world, large and small, including the United States of America, the People's Republic of China, the United Kingdom, and New Zealand, require both domestic and foreign direct investment. Smaller developing countries like those in our region similarly require such investments. Mr. Speaker, a significant recommendation put forward by the Economic Recovery Committee and adopted by my government is the establishment of Invest Bahamas. Invest Bahamas will represent a retooling and rebranding of the government's current Bahamas Investment Authority, BIA, which is in need of extensive reform and rebranding. A new agency will serve as the country's progressive, autonomous, and integrated foreign and domestic investment agency that will promote the Bahamas as a jurisdiction open for business, for quality direct investment. It would also facilitate foreign investment applications and assist Bahamians in accessing business capital and financial concessions. Invest Bahamas will be designed to operate with a code of confidentiality, transparency, and efficiency, and will provide a more modern transport and faster experience for foreign and domestic investors. I will have more to say on our new investment process in weeks and months ahead. Mr. Speaker, the shutdown of the cruise industry contributed to a significant reduction in our tourism business. But cruising is about to rebound. Royal Caribbean's decision to home port Adventure of the Seas in Nassau is in line with the robust investment they have made in our destination over many years. Home porting cruise passengers will fly into Nassau to embark, spend time on shore, and at the conclusion of the cruise, come back to disembark to fly back home.
After passengers stay here, not a night.
Yes, passengers will be here at least 2 days. The spin-off from this movement of guests may result in more hotel room nights. The weekly movement of guests in and out of Nassau will require additional airlift, the use of local ground transportation services, and many other professional services. Royal Caribbean's proposed developments and plans for increased passengers will result in business expansion for a wide array of tourism stakeholders. And these stakeholders, Mr. Speaker, include downtown and other merchants, straw vendors. Mr. Speaker, I would send out a plea again that as the tourist numbers continue and home porting progresses, tourists will be visiting all our various stores, Bay Street and Fish Fries and others, inclusive of the straw market. As the straw market is a tightly compact area, I send out a plea and ask the straw vendors to kindly become vaccinated, because we may possibly face challenges knowing that the cruise passengers are vaccinated. We do not want to be placed in a position where they're asking the question whether you are vaccinated. Let us be known to the world as the one and only fully vaccinated straw market in the world. These stakeholders also include businesses at Arawaki and Junkanoo Beach in Nassau, hair braiders, entrepreneurs in the creative economy, and other small business people. The stakeholders also include tourism service providers in Grand Bahama and the Berry Islands. I am pleased, Mr. Speaker, that approximately 620 local entrepreneurs in New Providence and Grand Bahama have attended workshops sponsored by Royal Caribbean and the Chamber of Commerce to learn about business opportunities generated by the introduction of Bahamas-based cruises. Royal Caribbean Group provided a $250,000 donation to the Small Business Development Center to establish a fund that will provide startup critical capital to micro, small, and medium-sized businesses in Grand Bahama, Berry Islands, and New Providence. One of the challenges for us as a heavily tourism-dependent country has been the question of how to best boost the benefits of cruising, including turning cruise guests into stopover guests. This Royal Caribbean arrangement offers the best of both worlds. A cruise guest who adds on a hotel stay of 1 or 2 nights. Royal Caribbean's pioneering Bahamas-based cruises will lead the way for the coming on stream of more such cruises, which may strengthen the local economies of our family island communities. A highlight of the Bahamas Royal Caribbean dialogue has been the proposition of making Nassau a home port and potential gateway to the Caribbean for more Royal Caribbean vessels. And this proposition has the potential to make a significant economic impact on our nation, though there is still much more to be done to realize this potential. Each year, Royal Caribbean's cruise ships bring some 2 million passengers to the islands of the Bahamas. Perfect Day at Coco Key is Royal Caribbean's flagship vacation paradise established in the Berry Islands. And Royal Caribbean's plans for a beach break destination on Paradise Island, namely Royal Beach Club, includes a $50 million investment that will generate an extra $26 million per year in visitor spending. The company's outlook for its investment in the Bahamas is quite ambitious. With vaccine distribution and active progress in the Bahamas and abroad, major hotel reopenings, and now the exciting return of cruising in the Bahamas, there is steadfast optimism that our country will once again achieve record-breaking tourism levels. Mr. Speaker, upon coming to office, we made a number of promises to the good people of Grand Bahama. Hurricanes and the pandemic resulted in a number of delays, but my government has worked tirelessly to renew and to restore the hopes of the people of Grand Bahama. I wish to update the House on the Carnival Cruise Port project. My government executed the heads of agreement with Carnival Corporation for development of a $100 million cruise port. The government continues to work with Carnival on the permitting process, and we expect to break ground shortly. This year's budget includes $19 million for the Rand Memorial Hospital 4-story expansion. This is in addition to the new pharmacy, the new medical surgical unit, the new maternity ward, the new operating theater, the new infectious disease wards, the new cafeteria, the new ICU, and the new children's ward that were completed under phase 1. Yeah. And yes, Mr. Speaker, I said completed. A committee has already been formed to assist in the design of phase 2. The government came to an agreement with Hutchinson for the purchase of the Grand Bahama Airport for $1, plus the assumption of a portion of staff-related costs. The acquisition was completed earlier this year. The government now has the full responsibility for the airport through the Grand Bahama Airport Authority. As of May 31st, employees are now employed by the Grand Bahama Airport Authority following the completion of severance processes. The government has engaged airport consultant Lee Fisher, who had already begun work on attracting the best PPP partner for this project. A new world-class Freeport International Airport is vital for the renewal of our second most populous island. And I am pleased to announce that the government has approved the new Discovery Bay project in Grand Bahama. The Vela Group intends to develop a mixed-use resort consisting of a 25-key boutique hotel and restaurant, 30 residential estate lots, 12 townhouses, 12 bungalows, a beachfront rental pavilion, a 30-slip marina to be situated in the existing canal system, and a back-of-house facility. It is estimated that this investment at the end of all its phases will exceed $100 million. I note that Doctors Hospital has announced their new hospital project in Grand Bahama. Work on this new private hospital will begin this year and is being done in partnership with Cleveland Clinic. I note the major renovations to Freeport Post Office, which began last October, are scheduled for completion this September. Mr. Speaker, a new school design for Inagua is completed, and presently it's out to quantity surveyors for pricing. Mr. Speaker, this is the design for the new school in Inagua. I wish to remind the House that the Disaster Reconstruction Authority, Special Economic Zone, SERS Relief Order 2019 will provide tax waivers until the end of the current fiscal year, June 30th, 2020. We have now decided to extend this order for building materials, furniture, and appliances to December 2021. And for vehicles purchased prior to May 1st, 2021 until August 31st, 2021 for these vehicles brought into the country. Under the SERS order, the islands of Abaco Keys, Grand Bahama Island, Sweden Key, Deepwater Key, and Water Key are considered VAT-free zones for local purchase of goods. In these disaster recovery areas, VAT-registered businesses are expected to waive VAT for all approved goods at the point of sale. For consumers, there is no pre-approval process. Everyone shopping inside the recovery area is able to benefit from the VAT waiver at the point of sale. Mr. Speaker, the Bahamas Development Bank is focused on increasing access to capital and financial inclusion for all Bahamians. Yeah. As recommended by the Economic Recovery Committee, the Development Bank is actively pursuing projects and lending programs to utilize natural resources through expansion and diversification in the green, orange, and blue economies. Women, youth, people of disability, and those who are socially and economically disadvantaged are the focus of special lending programs. On the 22nd of April, 2021, Development Bank launched the Angliston Community Grant at a town hall meeting as a pilot to assess the interest of microfinancing. At the time of the launch, the total value of the allocated grant pool was $20,000 with grants up to $2,000 per person. The 26 respondents to the application showed that microfinance can support immediate economic diversification. Innovative businesses in agribusiness, food service, landscaping, manufacturing, and others will receive grants to help them grow. The bank will continue to support successful applicants as they grow their operations. And this grant, Mr. Speaker, will build the capacity of those entrepreneurs and contribute to greater financial inclusion in vulnerable communities. Given the interest and success of the pilot, Development Bank intends to hold a similar town hall meeting in neighboring constituencies beginning in St. Barnabas. The bank intends to increase the funds in the grant pool and expand the grant to all over the Hill communities in conjunction with the Over the Hill office. These grants will be factored into Development Bank's current Global Climate Fund application and increase the bank's ability to attract non-reimbursable financing from external agencies domestically and internationally. Additionally, BDB will allocate $500,000 for a microloan fund and will offer accessible financing to qualifying businesses. Mr. Speaker, we are continuing with our commitment to empower Bahamians through land ownership. This includes the transfer of Crown land to Bahamians and making service lots available to Bahamians. Service lots are lots fully equipped with infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, I am advised that approximately 75 Crown grants are being issued across multiple islands, including Inagua, Mayaguana, Crooked Island, Eleuthera, Andros, Abaco, Grand Bahama, and New Providence. In addition, an additional 33 Crown grants are presently pending issuance, primarily in Crooked Island, Mayaguana, and Andros. The names of these individuals will again be published in the newspapers to ensure that they are notified to collect their grants. I am advised further that approximately 100 additional grants are in the process of being completed across multiple islands, including Acklins, Mayaguana, Andros, Grand Bahama, and Abaco. Mr. Speaker, the government previously shared information regarding the Service Lots Initiative in Carmichael Road. Considerable progress has been made on Phase 1, which will provide 102 properties to Bahamians with a combination of service lots and constructed homes. To date, civil and road works are 65% completed. The electrical street light poles are installed and are waiting the remaining electrical materials to arrive on New Providence shortly. The inauguration of this site is projected for mid-July of 2021. You ready? You ready. 235 individuals have already been reviewed to be assigned a lot or a host lot package. Appointments have already been arranged for the first 95 individuals to be given letters of intent for Carmichael Village. I am delighted to report that progress is being made on the government's Prospect Ridge community for young professionals, which will also provide service lots. I am pleased to advise that the Department of Transformation and Digitization has again successfully worked with a government stakeholder group and will have the committee's application for this community online for the first week of July. Mr. Speaker, so as individual would understand. The new Prospect Ridge project in the west subdivision, the applications will be online the first week of July. These are the properties that would worth about $150,000 or more and sold to the Bahamian populace, single family lots at $40,000 and multifamily at $50,000. The initial value of the lot is assessed at $150,000, which means you automatically have an equity of $110,000. Our experience in the West is that once the first home goes in such development, the property value moves from $150,000 to $180,000 and subsequently $220,000. But you would have received it with $40,000 and $50,000 respectively. We also note that this subdivision will have preschool to care for those within the area, and in addition to that, 10 architectural design will be provided where individuals can purchase an architectural design of their choice as opposed to having an architectural design done independently, which is usually 10% of the cost. That would mean the cost would have been about $225,000 to $50,000. So for an architectural design, they would have paid $25,000 to $30,000, but instead they would be able to purchase such design for $1,000. And Mr. Speaker, are they serious when they say it's not the people's time? There are two additional such land identified in the West, the Kalani constituency, which would follow the same model, and land is being identified in the Family Islands so as to encourage individuals to move to the Family Islands, because this age of technology, you need not live here in New Providence. You can live in any Family Island, yet work in New Providence or work on Wall Street or wherever. The committee, Mr. Speaker, will keep the application process open for a full 6 weeks. And we recognize that there are many people who may not necessarily have the technology or access for online material, and therefore I would advise the committee to also make provisions for individuals who do not have online access to ensure that no Bahamian is marginalized. Mr. Speaker, keeping the process open for 6 weeks, that is the application, this will allow prospective applicants to become familiar with all criteria and have an open opportunity to collect all of the requisite documents and to obtain financial qualification letters from their financial institutions. The government is also working to achieve a public-private partnership for the installation of the infrastructure in the community, and more details will be provided as this process progresses. Mr. Speaker, our policy is to enable land and home ownership at various income levels, including for middle-income Bahamians. We are investing in communities, groups, and areas throughout the Bahamas, including in opportunities for young professionals. And I say to the young professionals, it's about your future. What are we doing now should be considered a pilot. What we are doing now should be considered a pilot. I have asked for an assessment to be made on all potential impact of a broader application of the policy. Some of the concessions being discussed for this community are not new, nor are they limited to individuals or new problems. The government enacted the Access Affordable Homes Act in 2018. It is the same act by which Bahamians in Carmichael Village and subsequent government subdivisions throughout the entire Bahamas may receive concessions. And by the act, the amendments being debated as part of this budget exercise, applicants will be eligible to benefit from exemption from custom duties and excise tax in respect to the import or domestic purchase of any materials necessary for the construction of a dwelling, and for the furniture and appliances in respect of dwelling home, provided the home is completed and furnished within a period of 2 years from the date of approval by the minister. Allow the homeowner will also be exempted from real property tax for a period of 5 years from the date of the certificate of occupancy. Mr. Speaker, as I have indicated, other islands are also included in the service lots initiative. Exuma, because of what we're doing, Exuma will continue to grow, and it's essential that we provide accommodations for Bahamians who may want to move to Exuma. In the Central Pines, and of course we've identified lots in South Eleuthera. In the Central Pines extension on Abaco, 18 lots are presently being prepared with an expansion plan in 2024, an additional 40 lots. I'm happy to announce at this time, Mr. Speaker, that a private donor has donated the funds for the construction of 5 new homes within the Central Pine area, and these homes will commence in 2 to 3 weeks, and they will be given to residents of Grand Bahama who was devastated by the hurricane. Abaco, residents of Abaco that were devastated by the hurricane. The cost to these residents for the new home will be $0 and 0 cents. The government is contributing the land,
Yes, sir.
and the private sector is contributing the house. Also, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to announce that we are in discussion with another private donor that will soon materialize to donate an additional 10 homes to Abaco. We have gotten the verbal commitment, and we are only awaiting finalization.
Thank you.
So 5 homes are to commence in 2 to 3 weeks that are to be given to Abaconians. This is a caring government. In Spring City, Abaco, in Spring City, Abaco, Mr. Speaker, 21 lots with homes are presently being prepared with the necessary works, with an extension of an additional 115 lots in 2022. On Grand Bahama, we have made the decision to proceed with the McLeanstown housing project, started under the prior administration, and to add these properties to the service lots initiative. We have already completed the water infrastructure started previously, and now, after having been delayed for a period, we will be proceeding with completing the electricity installation. The McLeanstown subdivision has 40, listen to me carefully now, it's essential for Grand Bahama to listen to me, The subdivision was started by the former government. We're completing the infrastructure. Some of the infrastructure was in. We're completing the infrastructure. The subdivision has 40 residential lots, 7 multi-family residential lots, and 5 commercial lots. The residential lots will now also be eligible for the concessions available under the Access to Affordable Homes Act. Freeport and East End and West End is somewhat lost, so they will have the same benefits as is given to Prospect Ridge and other subdivisions created by the government. Additionally, being sensitive to the hardship faced by the families in East End, Mr. Speaker, this is important. Grand Bahama, listen to me. I want all Grand Bahamians to listen to me now. This is very important. We understand the hardship that Grand Bahama has experienced during the recession, but Grand Bahama's recession commenced pre the world's recession. Grand Bahama was also hit with multiple hurricanes, inclusive of Dorian and COVID. So the economic hardship that would have been experienced by the Bahamas was even worse by Grand Bahama. And therefore it's only fair that a government give Grand Bahama a better start. So the properties that were designed in the McLeanstown area, the size range from 13,000 to 20,000 square feet. The residential properties, 13,000 to 20,000 square feet, was assessed and to be sold by the former government at $10,000 to $20,000. But a caring government like us recognized the hardship that Grand Bahama has gone through, has decided to cut the cost by 50%. So rather than $10,000 to $20,000 that was being charged by the former government, this caring government would charge $5,000 to $10,000. Now it gets even better, Pine Ridge. Multi-family lots, same subdivisions. Vary in size from 18,361 square foot to 27,000 square foot. These were priced at $17,000 to $26,000 by the non-caring government. This caring government has slashed it by 50%. Then the commercial lots, 43,000 square foot to 217,974 square foot, was priced at $64,701 by the non-caring past government to $326,961. Now you know that's not fair to Grand Bahama. So they will all be cut by 50%. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I ask even Pine Ridge, whose time is it?
Pine Ridge, for you always get a mention at the end.
Mr. Speaker, my government is moving ahead with infrastructural works for the benefit of Bahamian people and residents. Gladstone Road is an approximately 3-mile-long single carriage road that experiences very heavy traffic and delays. We are on the way to converting this single carriageway to a dual carriageway, and this modern carriageway will include the following: 4 12-feet travel lanes, 2 in each direction, north, south. A central median with street lighting. The improvement of 6 major junctions to enhance safety and traffic movements. Improved drainage and property designated and designed bus lay-bays and shelters. 60% of the design for the new Gladstone Road is completed. And this new road work will benefit the residents of surrounding communities, vehicular traffic, and the many businesses and institutions in the area. Now, I want the Junkanoo fellas to listen to me. I spoke to JJ Car Wash. I spoke to Muff. I spoke to Oni. So they all know. They all agree. 2, I can't leave out Peter. $2 million was put aside for the Junkanoo. We have already identified in the Gladstone Road area 13 acres of property which will be utilized for the establishment of a Junkanoo cultural village. And this new roadway, upgraded Gladstone Road roadway, would facilitate easy access to our village so that they can see the history of the Saxons, the history of the valley, the history of one family. Who else, Michael? Congos, all of them.
Platinum Knights and Fancy Dancers.
And very soon,
Genesis.
very soon, Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Sports will be calling a meeting with the leaders of JCNP and the Junkanoo leaders so that they can plan the way forward so we can have our cultural village, which would become a tourist attraction.
The agricultural village.
Minister of Sports, I can say to you, I know my Junkanoo fellas. They can be downstairs waiting for you. so you better get ready for your meeting. Mr. Speaker, I wish to note 2 other iconic projects we are completing, which previous administrations were unable to complete for various reasons. The glass window bridge and the surrounding scenic area are unique in the Bahamas. They will be redeveloped for the benefit of the residents of Eleuthera, Bahamians, and visitors. The glass window bridge is in poor condition and a replacement has been needed for many, many years. The bridge only allows for single-lane traffic and has a restricted load capacity of only 12 tons. In early 2022, we plan to commence the construction of a new bridge. More details will be offered in months ahead. A new iconic and well-scenic design bridge will become a signature landmark and will include proper signage.
It's known as the narrowest crossing.
Mr. Speaker, there is no reason now, the existing ocean One side, rough water, calm water. This bridge has always been problematic. We propose a new bridge. Look at that beautiful highway. Oh my God, you can't even beat that. New highway, the glass water bridge.
It's known as the narrowest crossing on earth, Pierre.
I am advised that it's known as the narrowest crossing on earth. Yes. So I do not see why we will not be labeled as one of the wonders of the world. Just to give you a better view.
Dock in the rough side. Dock in the rough side.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Futuristic.
No, the entire village is anticipated.
Whole village. Whole village.
Is that not a tourist attraction, South Elutra? Are you not happy, South Elutra? I asked the question, whose time is it?
The people's time.
Now, Mr. Speaker, as I wind up, now punching time. Don't you look this way, Mr. Speaker? Huh? The member for the Exhumas on Ragged Island attacked us on the issue of debt. Like the leader of the opposition, he tried to blame most everything on this administration and very little on the virus. We borrowed to feed our people when the global economy was in meltdown and Bahamians were in need. We borrowed to give our people record amounts of unemployment benefits so they could have some money in their pockets during a global public health crisis. We borrowed so we could support Bahamian business. We borrowed, Mr. Speaker, to help our people get through these tough times as a caring government should do. Governments around the world took on debt to support their people. It was a common policy for survival. It was about saving lives. To not borrow would have meant leaving Bahamians to fend for themselves while the world's economy was in free fall. It is sad to listen to the opposition, Mr. Speaker. They have taken a cynical position. They criticize everything we do for political reasons, even if it is good for the people. In various countries, governments and oppositions came together in this crisis for common sense policies. Early in this crisis, this irresponsible opposition party moved away from consensus building. The opposition went as far as going against the public health emergency orders that saved so many lives.
My.
That was one of the most disgraceful political acts in our history since independence. We have used these legal measures to save lives. Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition engaged in some accidental humor in his contribution. He tried to pretend to be some sort of agent of change But this is laugh out, laugh out, laugh. Loud and loud. The leader of the opposition is a relic of the old PLP. He's a symbol of the old guard PLP we defeated in 1992. No Bahamian should go back to that style of governance. There's no change with the PLP. He kept referencing his economic plan. The reality is that the PLP has no new plan. They have the same old playbook. It is the same playbook that has guided that side for decades. When they get in office, they forget the Bahamian people. We are the party that supports Bahamian businesses. We have pledged the historic sum of $250 million in small business funding over 5 years. Through the Small Business Development Center. We are supporting the hiring of employees and businesses through a tax credit. We are creating tax-free zones in the southern islands to spur on economic growth for Bahamians. We are spending $31 million on resilient and renewable energy projects for Bahamians. We are spending $70 million on a PMH expansion for the Bahamian people. We have a number of coordinated plans, and one of these is Accelerate Bahamas Recovery Plan. We have circulated it to Bahamians and laid the plan on the floor of the House. He likes to ask, where's the plan? After the plan has been clearly articulated over and over again. Mr. Speaker, I turn my attention to a matter brought up in this Parliament by the member for Angliston. She referred to an opinion article that was penned by a former contractual employee of the Ministry of Finance. I read that opinion piece, which was riddled with inaccuracies and misleading statements. I intended to ignore it as I questioned the motivation of the writer, some Mr. Daniel Ferguson, who was employed by the government, but I would have thought that there's such a thing as confidentiality, but be it as it may. But given the member opposite brought it up in Parliament, I will briefly respond. First of all, it is mind-boggling that any member of the opposition would raise questions about procurement practices, given the patterns during their embarrassing time in office. See there? Audit report after audit report found they were an administration that gave out contracts following no due process and for goods and services where it was hard to find goods or services delivered. When we came to office, we found contracts of any number of vendors that did not go to tenders board as required. We found contracts that did not go to cabinet as required. Months and months into our term, there were people coming forward with contracts that were signed outside of any procurement process. The member of Angliston was a minister in that government and was the leader of the opposition. I do not recall either the member of Angliston or the leader of the opposition complaining about the slack processes of the last PLP administration while they were in office. Additionally, I pointed out before that it was the PLP administration with the member for Angliston and the leader of the opposition, the cabinet, that promised new procurement legislation. But as it is their practice, they were long on talk and short on action. It was just another idle promise that they never delivered. It is astonishing, Mr. Speaker, that with their record, the opposition now wants to lecture this side on procurement practices. On the misguided opinion piece, I will say this. My government promised procurement reform and delivered procurement reform via the new Public Procurement Act, which is scheduled to come into effect on September 1st, 2021. This is how we are different from them. On that side, they promise, posture, and pontificate.
You never did it at all.
Yet they typically fail to deliver on many promises. Come September, Mr. Speaker, we will have a brand new Procurement Act. It is an act that is among the most progressive in the Caribbean, embracing all elements of global leading practices. It will require publications of all contracts. The article referenced by the member for Angleston spoke to contracts awarded by the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Works. The existing policy and legal framework for procurement has been adhered to in the award of these contracts. These were the same policies the side opposite ignored regularly. Where appropriate, the contracts went to tenders board or to cabinet for consideration. Even though they used to ignore the guidelines regularly, the administration is using the same guidelines and procedures and procurements that the side opposite left in place. They are the same guidelines and procedures that have been in place under successive administrations for decades. The article referred to by the member for Angleston suggests the government ought to have used the procedures outlined in the new Procurement Act. This is strange, as the act only comes into effect in September of this year. The ministry, let me finish. The Ministry of Finance is busy putting in place the processes, procedures, rules, and training to ensure that the September timeline is met comfortably. Mr. Speaker, as is our practice, once the new act comes into place, we will abide by the provisions of the law and the related regulations. That is our way. This brings me to my final point on the matter. The article suggests,
Honorable member.
the article suggests the government has delayed the start time to September for political expedience. Let me remind the member for Angleston that the Ministry of Finance has explained the September timeline. The truth is that the operational leadership of the Ministry of Finance recommended to the Minister of State and myself that the timeline be pushed back to September, given the complexity of the act and the significant changes that are required. We accepted that recommendation. We have gone on record regarding this already. Mr. Speaker, we are the government.
She recognizes the honorable member for Angleston on a point of order.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think that the member for Kalani, and I would say is inadvertently misleading this parliament. The article that he refers to says a couple things. Partially is what the member has indicated, but what the article also said is that the cabinet of the Bahamas put in place a procedure for the what they call it, the electronic procurement portal, where they mandated that every person who wished to vie for a contract sign up to that portal. In fact, 763 persons signed up for that portal, and not once was a process used through that portal as was mandated. So forget the September date, which they nationalized, don't apply to them because of some good reason. But they have actually put in place a substitute process in the interim. And in any event, the writer also says that as a matter of, my words, moral policy, they ought to have utilized those practices and procedures, regardless of whether the legislation comes into force. So, you know, you can't say you got the wild, wild west with the law coming in September to allow for something. If you're committed to it, we would see it. And so perhaps the member will advise about the electronic portal, where persons signed up to participate in contractual processes, and not once, the article says, not once was there a process. Over 700 contractors signed up on that portal.
Very much, Ms. Member. I was trying my best to stay away from certain elements. My government adhere to the laws. We are not like them that goes outside. But, Mr. Speaker, it's unfortunate that an individual employed with the government, I don't want to go into details of his history at Defense Force. I don't want to go into details of his history, but if he pushed me enough, I will. History of health. But the members, there's such a thing as confidentiality. If after leaving the ministry under whatever circumstances, confidentiality is breached, who will hire such an individual moving forward?
You didn't want us to know we didn't use the portal?
That's all I will say. That's all I will say.
You didn't want us to know. That day people know you wanted something to
Chair recognizes Honorable Member for Carmichael.
Speaker, on a point of order, the only thing I'm going to say is that the statement that the portal was not used is untrue. Thank you.
Let me finish. That is an angry man. Let me finish. Mr. Ferguson is an angry man.
The chair recognizes Honorable Member. The chair recognizes Honorable Member for Angliston.
Thank you, Speaker. I invite the Prime Minister and the member for Kalani not to attack a private member who's not in this Parliament to defend himself. I adopted the article. Finance, I adopted the article. Do not attack a private citizen in this House who is not here to defend themselves.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are doing the reforms that were promised by the administration of which the member Angleston and Cat Island were part of. They never did it, but we are doing it. I wish to update the House on the Andre Rogers Baseball Stadium at the Thomas A. Robinson National Stadium. The overall project is approximately 60% completed. There are a number of outstanding civil design matters to be completed. The contractor is in the process of executing the work required to bring permanent power to the site. Further, the preparation for the field construction has begun. Additionally, the scoreboard, seating, and stadium lighting has been ordered. Mr. Speaker, I have no doubt that Andre Rogers cheers from heaven every time a Bahamian debut in the major leagues in the U.S. as Jazz Chisholm Jr. did last September. And we all raise a collective cheer when Chisholm hits a home run. Bahamians everywhere are proud of this talented son of the soil. Mr. Speaker, this is likely to be the last national debate before the next general election. The preparation of a national budget is a long and arduous process involving the entire government, including the many professionals of the Ministry of Finance. I wish to express my gratitude to all of those involved in the process which takes place over many months. Mr. Speaker, I also wish to express gratitude to those who serve our country in the House of Assembly. I thank you, sir, for your service to your country and to the House. I also thank the staff of the House Assembly. Election not due until May. Election not due until May. There'll be no budget before then. I thank the Leader of the Opposition.
There we go.
and his parliamentary team for their service.
Yeah.
May I also thank my cabinet and my parliamentary colleagues. I thank in a special way those colleagues who are not standing at the next election. I thank them for their services and their contribution. And I know and I am certain that they will continue to serve our Bahamas in various capacities. The full measure of our contributions includes all that we do in many arenas and areas of national life to serve the country that we cherish. May we all continue to pledge to excel in love and unity on behalf of our noble and enduring Commonwealth. Mr. Speaker, allow me to close, sir, with these inspiring words for a song we all know well. When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high. And don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind. Walk on through the rain. Though your dreams be tossed and blown, walk on. Walk on. With hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. Walk on. Walk on. With hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. You do not walk alone as a people, especially in times of peril, pandemic, and natural disasters. Whatever our differences, whatever our circumstances of birth, affiliation, or creed, we share a commonwealth. We are a commonwealth of dreams, aspirations, and a shared land and national destiny. We do not walk alone because we have a mighty, awesome God who abides within and who walks with us. We also walk together in a spirit of love and unity. I would like to say to my constituents in Kalani, I cherish their support, and I seek their support again as we move into election season, official election due by May 10th of next year. Though they may not see me walking through the streets, my team, led by the chairman, Sterling Clare.
Thank you.
Sterling Clare moves through
Thank you, Caroline.
continuously
So much for Kalani.
while I continue my job throughout the entire Bahamas. Kalani has had great achievements and accomplishments. In Mount Pleasant, we have completed the basketball court and the cabana that was destroyed by a hurricane. In Gambia, we've completed roadworks, parks, speed bumps, cleanup, and even assisted with new home development there. As we move forward, it is our intention to construct new homes for those within the Gambia area, just as is being done in Abaco. In Tropical Garden, our road repair continued, the water lines are completed, and I'm advised that the road repairs would complete soon. I'm aware that we have challenges on our parks and tropical gardens, and this week a contract would be signed so that our swings and sliding boards in our parks would be refurbished. We paved the roads, the West Bay, which has been a great challenge for us continuously, and the new roundabout being constructed at Blake Road to improve our safety continues to advance. I've had a meeting just a week ago, 2 weeks ago, with the members of Kalani Shores. And Kalani Shores had pointed out to me their concerns. I want to say to them that we are signing with a contractor for the 2 signage that they've requested to be commenced this week, if not next week. We've continued to give out food vouchers and laptops to those in need. We continue as an annual program to give out flu shots within the Kalani constituency. The Twin Lakes, which has been a challenge for some time, Twin Lake community now have their road repaired, water, lights, speed bumps, and other amenities now has been put in place. The area between the roundabout at Starbucks and the eastern roundabout, moving from Starbucks' roundabout to the eastern one, that entire area, we have a commitment that area will be adopted by Sandals and beautified. At Delaport, we've completed our park, swings, basketball court, and we are to commence very soon repair work at the bathroom facility. We continue our CCTV program throughout the Bahamas so as to improve safety within our area. So, Mr. Speaker, we continue our advancement with Kalani. But, Mr. Speaker, I was amazed last week. No, that's all right. I was amazed last week here in Parliament. And the leader of the opposition had made a misstep. And the member of Angliston stayed and defended her leader, as should be done. I was amazed, Mr. Speaker, that the deputy leader, the deputy leader walked out.
We can get to that. Don't worry about that. We can get to that.
Walked out while the member for Angliston defended her leader and her leader tried to defend himself. The deputy leader walked out. Mr. Speaker, I have been taught that on a ship, the captain and the first mate must always remain.
Go down together.
Let me finish. Exuma and Ragged Island has demonstrated no loyalty to his leader. But I am not surprised because he demonstrated no loyalty to me. He was my candidate for Exuma. And I looked on the TV and I saw him walking I was more than shocked. In a yellow shirt, he abandoned me. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to close by telling him that I kept that shirt that belonged to him, and I brought it here. I brought his shirt. His shirt is with him. Rock with dog. If you check the size, Mr. Speaker, my size is extra large. This is large. So, do I keep your shirt until you return, or do you want it now?
Nothing but a double crosser.
Chair recognizes the honorable member for Southern Shores.
No, we're going to extend. We're going to extend. We have to go through second reading. Mr. Speaker, as I move to extend, I must say in defense of my good friend Frank Zuma, he couldn't defend because he wasn't here when all that stuff happened. Mr. Speaker, I move that the business of the House extend beyond the 1 p.m. hour today's date.
Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the business of this House extends beyond the 1 p.m. hour. As many members that are in favor will remain seated, those who oppose will stand. The business of this House will extend beyond the 1 p.m. hour. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Kalani.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, I close by thanking the Bahamian people and the people of Kalani for the opportunity to serve. Even in this most trying and difficult days of office, I remain grateful for the prayers and support of countless Bahamians. Through the grace and goodness of the Almighty God and the hard work, prayers, and hope of Bahamian people, the Bahamas is coming back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We are coming back stronger,
Yes, sir.
more resilient,
Yes, sir.
and more determined. We are coming back. May God continue to bless you, Mr. Speaker, and bless the members of the People's House. May God bless our Commonwealth of the Bahamas. I so move.